Evaluate the definite integral. We have dx over 1 plus the square root of x to the 4th power with a lower bound of 0 and an upper bound of 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to let u equal the denominator, what's inside the parentheses in the denominator, which is 1 plus the square root of x. And now we're going to take the derivative. But keep in mind, this is 1, u is equal to 1 plus x to the power of 1/2. And so when we want to take the derivative of this function, just remember that in order to take the derivative, we have du, derivative of 1 is 0, so this is going to be x 1 over 2 x to the negative 1/2 dx, right? And so therefore this is going to become du, which is then going to equal the following. It's going to be 1 over 2, and that's x to the 1/2, which is the square root of x dx. Okay. And so now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we want to solve for dx. So in order to solve for dx, because that's all we have in our original problem, we're going to have to multiply both sides by 2 times the square root of x. So therefore we have the following. 2 times the square root of x du is going to equal dx. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Well, we also need to determine, okay, what does x equal, right? So we need to solve for x. So let's take a look at step 1 and solve for x, because we're going to have to plug it in for this x here. So we know that 1 plus the square root of x is equal to u. Okay, and now if we want to solve for x, we have the square root of x, which is equal to u minus 1. So here we solve for the square root of x, not x, and you can see that's what the square root of x is here. So what we're going to do is the following. We're going to write 2, and we know that the square root of x now is going to be times u minus 1 du, which is equal to dx. And now we're going to go ahead and do that substitution. So in step number 5, let's go ahead and first write our original question, which is 0 to 1, and that's 1 over 1 plus the square root of x to the 4th power dx. And now let's go ahead and put in our substitutions. So we have 1 over u to the 4th, and we know that dx is equal to 2 times u minus 1 du. So this is times 2 times u minus 1 du. Okay, so now what we're going to do is the following. We know that we're going to now need to determine what is the upper and lower bounds according to what we defined u to be. So we know that u is equal to 1 plus the square root of x. So this is u, which is equal to 1 plus the square root of x, which means this would be 1 plus the square root of 1. And again, this is u, which is equal to 1 plus the square root of x, which is 1 plus the square root of 0. Now let's go ahead and apply that. So 1 plus the square root of 1 is 1 plus 1, which is 2. 1 plus the square root of 0 is 0, so 1 plus 0 is 1. And then we can factor out the 2. And then what we have here is 1 over u to the 4th, which is the same thing as u to the negative 4th, times u minus 1 du. Okay, so now let's distribute the u to the negative 4 to those two terms. So remember, when you multiply the same base, you add your exponents. So negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. So we're going to have u to the negative 3 minus u to the negative 4 du. And now let's go ahead and take the antiderivative. So we have 2 times u to the negative 3 plus 1 over negative 3 plus 1 minus u to the negative 4 plus 1 over negative 4 plus 1 going from 1 to 2. So now let's go ahead and then complete this. So we have 2, and this is times u to the negative 2 over negative 2 minus u to the negative 3 over negative 3 going from 1 to 2. Now again, we have to multiply by the reciprocal of what's in the denominator. So we have 2 times, this becomes negative 1/2 u to the negative 2. Since this is a negative times a negative, that's going to be a positive. That's positive 1/3 u to the negative 3 going from 1 to 2. Now we're going to go ahead and write those negative exponents variables in a denominator. So we end up getting the following. This is 2 times negative 1 over 2u squared and this is going to be plus 1 over 3u cubed going from 1 to 2. So now let's go ahead and evaluate. So we have 2 times, and then in parentheses we have negative 1 over 2 times 2 squared plus 1 over 3 times 2 to the third power minus negative 1 over 2 times 1 squared plus 1 over 3 times 1 cubed. So we're going to go ahead and evaluate this a little further. So we have 2. This becomes negative 1 over 2 times 2 squared. So 4 times 2 is 8. So this is negative 1/8. Plus, this is 1 over 3 times 2 to the third power, which is 8 times 3, which is 24. And then minus over here, we have negative 1/2 plus 1/3. So we need to find a common denominator, and the common denominator is the greatest common denominator is going to be 24. So we have negative, and this is 24. So 8 times 3 is 24. So it's negative 3 over 24 plus 1 over 24. Minus over here, we want this to be 24. So 12 times 2 gives you 24. So this is going to be 12 over 24 plus this is going to be 24, and this is going to be 8. So let's go ahead and simplify a little more. So we have 2 times negative 2 over 24 minus negative 4 over 24. And that becomes a plus. So this is 2 times 2 over 24. And so let's go ahead and reduce that 2 over 24, which is 2 times 1/12, which then becomes 1/6. And therefore there is our result.